Luminix, created by Nicole Stacy. So the project that I did for the semester was to create a modern and vintage pinhole camera. And I decided to do this because I was always interested in film cameras, but never had one of my own. So most pinhole cameras cost about $100 or more. They're bulky, they can be very difficult to use, and oftentimes they're very plain. They're just like a wooden big box. So the first thing that I did was, in order to create my pinhole camera, was to create a small matchbox pinhole camera that I did by researching and following steps online. And I did this not knowing anything about pinhole cameras. That way I could take what I wanted to know and create questions that I would later use in my project. So the questions that I created were, what do I need to know, what did I learn, and what is required? And so step 2 was to do research. And I answered these questions like, what did I need to know? So I wanted to know more about film, light, pinhole cameras, history of the camera, and photography. So I took many pages of notes looking at websites that contain a lot of information. And with my research, I created drawings that slowly evolved after or during my research. So I could create my camera idea better and better. The third step was to create scale drawings with prototypes. So I ended up creating about 3 prototypes, each with different mechanisms, such as a sliding back door or a door with a latch on it. So I would continue to evolve my ideas. And the fourth step was to start building. So at first I used MDF wood, which didn't turn out too good, which is why I later changed to plywood. MDF wood is made out of like sawdust, but it is very aesthetically pleasing, which is why I chose it. So the first step that I did was to have someone saw it. So the first time I asked my mom's friend who did it, and they turned out pretty nice. So I taped them together, then I used wood glue, and I would use clamps to hold it down. And the total building process took about 10 hours because of the time I had to wait. I also spray painted it black in the inside and outside because spray painting it black in the inside keeps the light from exposing the film and damaging the picture. And it also creates a very clear image, so everything on the inside had to be very black. So here was my final product, the Luminix camera. The fifth step was picture taking. So the first trial I didn't keep the camera very still and the seconds exposure time were off. Also I used bad lighting, so I tried to change that in my second trial, which turned out a lot better because I actually placed it on a table and chose the right amount of exposure time for the lighting. So I did this in the first trial I would use subjects, people who would hold their fingers for the amount of seconds I would release the exposure. So one turned out really well, which was indoors, and my subject was holding 3 seconds, which meant that the best amount of exposure time for indoor lighting was 3 seconds. So most of my pictures for the second trial turned out much nicer because I used 3 seconds. So here are my pictures for the second trial. I also created a website because my goal for the end was to possibly sell 1 or 2 on Etsy, which is a craft website. So I created a website that explains about the camera, about me, and you can actually buy a camera, or you can buy it on Etsy, which I will later explain. That is my goal for next semester. So I will now give you a demonstration on how it works. So this is a camera, and in order to open it and put the film in, you open the back and you put the 2 film canisters in, and the film is placed behind this wooden tab, and that creates a clear picture. And then you close it and you open it for about 3 seconds, and there's a small pinhole in there. Then you close it and that takes the picture. And then you just rotate this 1.5, and then you are ready to take another picture. So it's very simple to use, and after you can just you can develop it at Long's or any other camera place. So I used a lot of core concepts such as 21st century skills. I was very imaginative and I took initiative because I would work a lot on my own time and spent hours working on it. So I think that really involved a lot of 21st century skills. Also math, I had to calculate the exposure time, distance from film to pinhole. I actually created the dimensions for the building structure and had to calculate the aperture. So here's an example. If the shutter speed is 1/25 of a second, the exposure time would be 8 seconds. I also used language arts because I did a lot of research and used a lot of resources, and also did a lot of reading and learned a lot of new vocabulary from reading pages and pages of information. Social studies was also involved because I did research on history, such as the first camera technology, the first camera, and also famous people that influenced the camera. Science was involved a lot in this project because I had to research about light waves, light use in camera. So I learned a lot of science through my research. Also, the name Luminex. Lumen is a type of unit that measures light, which is why I chose it as my name. And logo, Luminex. X is for box, so it's like light box. Benefiting the community. So with this, I hope to educate teens, bring back film, and allow people to become more creative in photography. Film is slowly dying because we are always using our phones and DSLR cameras. So I really want to teach people more about film and hopefully bring back film. My plans for next semester is to hopefully continue the project and sell it on Etsy for about $50, but I would first need to raise money to about $100 that would create about 3 cameras, and I'd also need a partner to work with in order to cut the wood. And I'd also plan to hopefully extend the website. Thank you. Any questions?